OSG, Andres, and someone new who wanted to join the party. Said we were having a lot of good times, so he wanted to come in and put in, sprinkle in his little sauce onto the show. You guys know him from the supporters section. You guys see him on the social media. You guys see him on the Dynamo promos. You guys see him everywhere. Our guy Cesspool. What's going on, my guy?
Hey man, very happy to be here. Not so happy under the circumstances, but I'm glad you're giving me the space. I'm glad you invited me or invited myself to the show. But I'm
No, no,
happy
for
to be
sure,
here,
man.
man. And Dynamo talk all the time. Let's bully.
No, for sure, man. We're happy to have you here. Obviously, we see you all around as far as the games, the promotions, the social media, all that good stuff, man. The mask, they keep getting updated and updated and updated. And we love to see the
Yeah.
the enthusiasm, man. Especially, cesspools for the kids.
Exactly. Hey, all of this stuff is because they telling me, hey, bro, you gotta switch it up. We can't make enough action figures. You gotta switch it up for different. So it's just for the action figures. Giving the
Hey,
fans what they want.
when you get those action figures, man, make sure you don't forget about us and you get us a couple over here so that we can give them
I'll
away.
throw some free ones for you. I like
Hey, there you go, there you go. Hey, OSG, what's going on, my guy?
What's up, bro? What's up? Nothing good on the Dynamo side of the world. That just we got an artist over there drawing some other things. I'm looking at coffins.
You're looking at coffins. You
Preparing
you
for a
you,
funeral, man. Preparing for a funeral.
you need to, is there something you need to tell us or what's going on?
Nah. Just we just riling up the rampage of the fans, and they're wanting answers, and they're wanting somebody's head cut off already. So that I
Oh,
get
okay, okay. I
so
thought,
metaphorically,
oh,
not
okay.
Oh,
for real.
oh, okay. The French guillotine.
I
I was
was
gonna
worried,
pull it
man.
out.
I was
Yeah,
worried, man. I,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I know the O stands for old, but damn, I didn't think you were that old.
yeah.
Shit.
Already getting there. They don't keep doing this to me, man. Shit.
Damn. Andres, what's going on, Bubba?
Hey man, pretty good except for yesterday.
Mm.
I'm, I'm mental recovering still. I'm ready to unleash it right now.
Speaking of mental recovery, guys, obviously, we're happy to do this every Thursday during the Dynamo season and during some time during the off season as well. And where else is better for you to come to have therapy than with us? Noodle time, Thursday at 8 o'clock. Whenever we can make it on time. I apologize. Sometimes I know that I, you know, get in a little late. But before we get to all negativity about the Dynamo and obviously what happened yesterday's game and what's been going on with the team and all that good stuff, I wanna show a little spotlight to the good stuff that's going around in Houston as far as the soccer community. And obviously, we just finished the group stages of the Gold Cup here, and obviously Houston has hosted 3 dates. Last week when I wasn't on, we had the privilege of having Herman and Juan live at the Trinidad and Tobago Haiti game, which was a good look. Shout out to those guys wherever you guys are. I'm sure you guys are watching. And then obviously this past weekend with Saturday having Canada, Curacao, and Honduras, El Salvador. And then obviously Tuesday having Guadalupe, Guatemala, and El Salvador, Canada. Guys, I mean, I don't know about you. Obviously, I'm Salvadorian, so obviously the games I've been watching the games a little bit closely, especially with the Salvadorian national team. But that's gonna one thing that I'm gonna have to get off in a sec after if we finish talking. But have any of you guys had the opportunity to go? Obviously I know it's OSG and Andres are in Austin, but Cesspool, have you had any chance to go to any of the games out here for Gold Cup?
I went undercover. I
There
went
you
I
go.
went with yeah, I went with a couple of friends. What was it? Saturday.
Hmm.
Saturday to Honduras. I gotta say, man, I love the turnout in Houston. I like it. I like it every time they bring national teams here because that's the only time I see the show full. And oh my God, does it look like a completely different stadium? It's kind of nice to
Yeah.
see the atmosphere. And the soccer is very alive in the US. It's just we got to get the people in the right ships. Now, the games, very good games. Very good teams on both ends. To be quite honest with you, I'm surprised how much CONCACAF has evolved. Uh, with that being said, though, it's always going to be the same teams at the end of the run for the time being. But I'm always happy to see, especially a lot of my friends from Batallon, from you guys, and the
Mhm.
Surge that were in the game. It was kind of nice to see him.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, a lot of national pride, a lot of Guatemaltecos, a lot of Hondurians,
Hmm.
Salvadorians, sprinkled in with some Canadians, and a lot of the good stuff, especially and even some Islanders, Caribbean people from
Yeah,
last week when during the
yeah.
Trinidad Tobago and Haiti game as well. So it's always good to see, and we'll talk about that because what you just mentioned right now, like we always know who's going to end up in the final, whatever this and that. I want to add a little something to that, and I'll ask you guys
Hmm.
this question right after we finish all this. Obviously, I know the USA's men's national team played in Austin. None of you guys went to the game. I'm assuming. Was there
No,
any other game in Austin?
it
They had
was,
three as well.
yeah.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry.
Andres. You know what games they were.
No, yeah, I did recall that it was like USA and Saudi Arabia, but they usually just have like a double header dates. I can't remember from
Mhm.
the top of my head, but there was just like an issue with the media accreditation, and
Mm.
on top of that, the pricing for fans, and I was like, absolutely nuts. But
Yeah, I saw.
yeah,
I saw. I mean, for a city that's kind of trying to label itself as Soccer City in Texas or Soccer City USA, it was pretty devastating the outcome of that game, as far as the attendance. But I mean,
The
I
turnout,
get it.
yeah.
I get it. Trust me, the ticket pricing is a little up there, and it's kind of crazy. But for me
Three games
personally,
there, three
yes,
games, and they
and
shut. Even with the
yeah,
USA game, it was three
yeah.
games. They weren't back to back, but there was, I mean, a double header, but it was a back to back games, and then they had
Mhm.
one later, and they were still good games, almost. But yeah, ticket prices were friggin' outrageous, and I
Yeah,
even put it on Twitter talking shit about it after the first two games, and then the third game happened, and prices were still ridiculous. I followed it up to the game just in case, and it was ridiculous. So I didn't go, and then I turned the
that's
TV
crazy.
on, watching it, and the freaking place is empty, and all you see is the green chairs. It was a joke,
Yeah,
man. It was a joke.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
and
Yeah.
it
was
Well,
was
see that
depressing.
that.
it was
Go ahead, Andres.
Guatemala, Panama, and Panama, Jamaica were the other games on the 20th and 24th, respectively.
Coco
See,
was in.
and to be
No,
honest,
Coco
though,
was not there. Coco was not
yeah,
there.
Okay.
and to be honest, those are some really good games. We know how up and coming Guatemala is, Panama, Jamaica.
Mhm.
Those are really good quality teams that can make a good run. Aside from the Mexicos and USA's, right? And it's a shame that man, it's tough. It's tough because every year that goes by, stuff like that with ticket pricing and just fees and all this good stuff. It just I don't understand how they're trying to grow the game, but yet they're trying to like
Cannibalize the
rip us
tickets. Yeah.
apart financially. I mean,
And it
obviously next
goes
year, obviously next
go,
year's the big event with the World Cup, and it's going to be a doozy to see how much people are willing to finance for the World Cup experience. Because to be honest, I don't know too many people who would just have the money straight up to just go and pay these World Cup ticket fees. But Cespo, you wanted to say something before?
I think the pricing on that aspect, when it comes down to it, it's down to Austin. I mean, even for us when we go visit them, right? Like
Mhm.
it's up to the administration at the end of the day. Because even in contrast, when you go to the Shell, and watch Honduras play, Salvador, nowhere near. I think the tickets were half the price, maybe 25% less. But dude, it comes down to the administration. Even when we go, what is it, $70 a ticket or something like that? So, I mean, it's insane. And maybe they thought that the US was going, they were going to have the same turnout that they have at Austin, but people are not dumb. A lot of
Yeah,
people, traveling fans, are not willing to spend that money to travel into Austin and then spend the 80, $90, whatever the price was for the ticket, and then have to
yeah,
pay the food inside. And no, it gets outrageous. And it
yeah.
comes
And
down
this
to
is
the administration.
twice now they've had the men's team there twice, and
Hmm.
attendance
And
has
it's
been
been
poor
low.
both times. Yeah, and they've been
Right.
both have been real games too, not friendlies. So they're
Yeah,
failing.
because I remember,
Hmm.
I think if I remember correctly, the last USA men's national team game in Houston was against Chile, if I'm not mistaken. That was the last time that USA came and played in Houston, if I'm not. And
Yeah,
that
and
and that
better
Yeah,
and that stadium,
turnout.
and we were full. And I think that stadium was full. Obviously, Chile at that time was a main attraction as well with players like Sanchez and Vidal and stuff like that. But I mean, but still, it was a pretty full stadium. But that being said, I mean, like it also doesn't help when you have another tournament with bigger exposure going around the country as well, because you have people that who rather travel to those games and go to those games and spend money for those games because of the players available to that time. So My question to you before we move on, this is what I want to ask, and I want to get a question. I want to get an answer from each one of y'all. Obviously, the Gold Cup is always held in America, in the United States. Wouldn't it be good for when there's another tournament going on? Like sometimes we've hosted the Copa America twice already. Next year we're hosting the World Cup. Obviously we've hosted the World Cup before. And this is the first time we're hosting this Club World Cup. That FIFA is trying to build and stuff like that. Wouldn't it be nice to have the Gold Cup maybe being hosted by the Central American countries or Mexico every once in a while, or things like that. I'm not gonna so much to the Caribbean countries because obviously they have a lot of
Infrastructure.
infrastructural problems and whatever, and then in season and things like that, obviously. But wouldn't it be nice to see, hey, maybe a Gold Cup being hosted by Salvador, Guatemala, Panama, Honduras, something like that, or then another one, Panama, Costa Rica, and then whatever invited team. Let's say we invite Colombia that year, and it's Colombia or Venezuela, and Venezuela hosts or whatever, something like that. Instead of every year being in the USA. Obviously, I understand the marketing because obviously the money comes in there for the Mexico national team, the USA men's national team, and FIFA get their cut as well. But don't you think that would be a good idea? I mean, OSG, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, just because I think it's just, man, dude, like two tournaments, then the big one next year, and then we have another one after that. It's like pretty soon the money dries up.
Hey, the money will never dry up with the summer of soccer we're having in the World Cup coming. It's going to be there. But I do like the idea that you say of the Gold Cup being hosted by somebody else, by different countries. Even you listed the four at the same time hosting. That would be enjoyable, and it's reasonable because travel is so close right there.
Hmm.
Mexico could host, Canada could host. Yeah, it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be USA every time. And but you said it though, marketing, money. So how will they make it work elsewhere to even consider that? That'll be the issue. But yeah, it'd be fun, and it should be. It's a major tournament, a major international tournament. It should rotate. Yeah, there's no question.
Cesspool,
Yes.
what do you think?
I definitely agree. We definitely, I mean, no, forget the whole marketing side. Just in terms of competition, how good would it be for Mexico to show up to freaking El Salvador and play there against El Salvador? That only happens in World Cup qualifiers, and we've seen the bigger teams in this case Jamaica now, the U.S. At some point Trinidad, going to Honduras, going El Cuscatlan, or going to San Salvador in the heat, with the crowd, with everybody there. It's different. It's a different experience. It's a different atmosphere. It's very hostile, but you did say it. CONCACAF, their baby is the US. And there's no other players, and it's been such a success throughout the lifetime of the cup that there's no way they'll move it, just because of the amount of income they're generating off of that. And now they're treating it more as an experience for the Caribbean teams to
Hmm.
come in here and actually have a more organized tournament and have more experience. And that's kind of the only reason CONCACAF has grown, because you're playing soccer in a very high level infrastructure every 2 years, and you're rotating those kinds of players. And now we're bringing in players like, from England playing in Jamaica. Why? Because they're gonna play that main tournament in a big infrastructure. And I think
Yeah,
all of those things is the key factor in to make sure that the US has it on lockdown. Would it
but
be nice to do it in Mexico? Absolutely. But I don't think they'll make half the money they make here. I mean, there's
but the
just no
fact,
way.
but the fact that you mentioned that is you bring tourism money to those countries that don't usually have it, like in the United States, right?
Yeah,
And then on top of that, I would guarantee you, I would almost guarantee you that every game played in those stadiums will be full every time. Because
absolutely.
like think
Absolutely.
about think about it. You said USA's Concacaf's baby, alongside with Mexico, right? But a 25,000 seated stadium in Austin, I don't think it was 50% full. for the USA men's national team.
Mm-mm.
You
I would say that no.
if, if
11,000 for the USA game.
yeah, if USA was playing Jamaica and Honduras on and San Pedro Sula, that 35,000 seat stadium would be full, completely full. Not obviously not, maybe with not many American supporters, but obviously maybe a couple of Jamaican supporters, but just the whole country itself, because it's different than what they're used to getting. It's an
It's a
event
different perspective. I see.
for them. It's something different than what they're used to, because obviously they're only used to seeing their national team face whoever they're facing in that stadium. So when you get something else, along the ways, you're like, man, you want to go see that. Like, look, I'm a prime example. Salvador. They just opened the Estadio Mágico González. They had Inter Miami coming through there. They had Cadiz coming there from La Liga. These are events that these people haven't had the experience to check out, and every time those things happen, full packed stadiums. You know,
I
I think
mean,
it's
now
more.
may be a good time to revisit that
Yeah,
because you're absolutely correct. I mean, now that you're bringing up those kinds of points, if you think about it, it's much cheaper for somebody to travel to El Salvador and catch a couple of games there than to travel to New York because the tickets in New York are going to be $80, and if you go to El Salvador, they're going to be 40. You know, uh, it's just
what's
that
up,
the cost.
Giuseppe?
Yeah, it's just a better turnout.
Yeah,
You're right, and maybe now that soccer is picking up everywhere in terms of level, I think you're correct. Maybe more people
yeah,
now would see the value in seeing players like McGlynn or seeing players like Pulisic show up in Honduras. That would be
yeah.
great. That
Uh,
is a spectacle for them.
for sure, for sure. Andres, I want to get your thoughts before we move on.
Honestly, like everyone has the correct answer when it comes to organizing Gold Cup elsewhere. I've always dreamed of having the Gold Cup in other countries that represent CONCACAF, not just the US or Mexico, Canada, because it goes beyond that. And CONCACAF has a sheer amount of countries that are able to do that. Granted, Caribbean countries don't have the infrastructure, you could say, and it's debatable depending on where you go in Central America. But obviously, everybody knows that in the US, this is a place where they're going to make the most money when it comes to getting as many fans as possible, buying concessions, buying gear, all that stuff. And of course, logistics wise, it's easier to just have it here, just for the infrastructure and everything else with it.
Hmm.
Yeah. What's up, Giuseppe? What's up, Colby? What's up, Public Enemy? Who else came in here? Somebody else came in here that I didn't see, but shout out to you guys. What's going on? And this is the
Who
last thing.
just who
This is the
just
last thing.
scored for USA?
Oh, there we go.
Who just
USA ladies.
who just
Every
scored?
Patterson.
Avery Patterson with a
Yes.
header. With a
Hey, we
Yeah.
header.
gotta get the women to do that too. Now we got the men's, the U.S. to do this. Now we got to get the women's to do that. Get me
What a
in there,
beauty.
OSG.
Avery Patterson. Let's go. All right.
There you
Sorry.
go.
Get back to the boys. Back to the boys.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So before this is the last thing I'll say on this topic before we get to the main appetizer of the show and all that stuff, which is Dynamo, of course. Yeah, like I said, I think if they were able to rotate it every once in a while, it would just give tourism money to those countries and more opportunity for them as well. Because
To
it's
develop the game.
look, to be honest, I'm tired. Look, it's great that we can get these games in football stadiums, but I don't want to see a 70,000 seated stadium halfway full, man. It just looks nasty, to be honest, in my opinion, right?
Hmm.
And it's not a good representation of us as soccer fans in the country, and you can't fault the fans for not wanting to go. Look, let's be real. Mexico is the golden goose, right? And wherever Mexico goes, especially if it's a final, they're gonna fill up the stadium. But if the Mexican fans are against Mexico, which has happened a lot of times in these recent couple of years, like they won't show up. They won't show up at all. And then you'll have a half-empty stadium. Or if Mexico doesn't make it to the final, I'll get to successful. Or if Mexico doesn't make it to a final for whatever reason, and it's let's say Jamaica USA, yeah, you get your USA fans, but the stadium is not full at all. You won't have the same amount of capacity. Where
Hmm.
you know, let's make it a little tougher for these supposedly big fish in a small pond, which is the USA and Mexico. Let's make it a little tougher for those guys. This is not only do you challenge them as a federation, because even though they're the big fish in small ponds, when they go out to these tournaments and play in big ponds, the World Cup, Copa America, stuff like that, we want to see them thrive because that's our region leaders, right? And we want to see them do well. But we see them fail and fail and fail and fail because they don't get pressed from this region. But Cesspool, do you want to add something before we go?
I mean, I would say, I think the attitude towards not, playing in your home country, I think Mexico is a leader in that. And as you were mentioning that, right? Mexico being the goose, the golden goose. And I'm not sure if you're aware, Mexico has a contract with a company called Zoom, which is Soccer United Marketing.
Mm-hmm.
They're the reason we play in the US so much, right? And but now it's became such a habit to have it here, and through the success of Mexico, uh, I don't see how they'll get out of here. Even when
Yeah.
Mexico goes home, if they play at home and the people were mad because they did it last year, and the people were just upset at the way Mexico was playing. Even when Tata Martino was there, people would just not show up. And I think that's very good from the fans, but let's not forget. I mean, like Andres said, the money is king, and unfortunately, if we cannot like find a way to have Honduras hosted, making the same amount of money as you would in the US, is dead, sadly. Sadly, money is the reason why soccer hasn't been able to progress, as much in other countries. And that's why we're stuck with the big four now: Jamaica, Canada, and the US and Mexico.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, I'm gonna ask this question to Andres and Andres only because I want to move on to the Dynamo. But I haven't really had the chance to keep up with the USA men's national team on the Gold Cup. Obviously, I know they've been winning, and I know a lot of interest has been going towards the forward for Charlotte FC. I forget his name, Patrick Aubameyang or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. How's McGlynn looking out there?
He contributes a lot, and he hasn't provided like that big of an assist in his first game in the Gold Cup. And Patrick Ajiman, that's a player that you were mentioning just now. He's been on a tear. Uh, he's obviously he plays for Charlotte FC and not us, but he's been
And Tillman as well.
has a pretty big spotlight as well. And the upcoming game in Costa Rica, I feel like that game is going to be kind of dangerous, and we just have to see how they step up because they were able to step up like in Saudi Arabia. I thought they were going to be surprising against them, and Costa Rica, they're kind of well coached right now. We'll see how that goes.
Piojo Herrera. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of rumors surrounding McGlynn, Tillman, and Patrick. I can't say his last name for Charlotte
Hajiman,
FC.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see what happens to those guys. We'll see if even if McGlynn ever gets to put on the Dynamo jersey ever again. Who knows? We might get sold. Who knows? We'll see what happens. With
Bro.
that being said, speaking of the Dynamo guys, I know we're going a little bit, so I'm trying to get to the main thing, the main juicy steak on the plate. Guys, another long break, and unfortunately for us, it could have lasted a little bit longer because the guys weren't ready to come back and play. A 3-1 loss against Minnesota United. All three goals scored in the second half of yesterday's game. A brace
In
by
9 minutes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a bad result after a horrible result against Montreal. I remember being on this show with OSG and Andres talking about, dude, let's get out of May. June is looking very tasty as far as the Dynamo getting at least 7 points out of the 9 possible points. And to be honest, they should probably get all 9. Dude, man, you know what?
They
Ever
gave up
since
9.
ever since the SKC game where I came in here all cocky, big chested with my chest all stick out on my 5-0, the Dynamo. Phew. Ever since that, you know what? So I'm keeping my mouth shut about the Dynamo, but I'm gonna go on here with you, and we're gonna give it off to Cesspool first because he's our special invited guest, and this is kind of the reason why he wanted to be on here, and I want to hear his thoughts as far as from a fan and supporter. Obviously, obviously we're here weekly, but I want to hear it from somebody who's there. on a constant basis. Even has a little bit of a ties with the team. As far as obviously I mentioned with the promotions and the social media and all that good stuff. But Cesspool, what are your thoughts on the game as far as yesterday, and maybe not just yesterday's game, the last couple of games against these supposedly bottom feeding teams, that we should be getting points on, and unfortunately we're getting trounced.
Um, I would say it boils down to something off the field because the way the team is playing, I mean, we have good players. We have solid players. There's no reason we should hit 9 goals in the last 3 games. It just doesn't happen. We have a solid Pablo Ortiz in the back, and he was just terrific last game. You know what happened? The team fell apart. I think in those 9 minutes, the team lost aggression. The team never looked like they wanted to win it. And I think after, the first half with that controversial play, I think the mood was just down. And I think one of the key points there was when Bond ended up, having that stoppage when he got hurt. I think that's kind of when everything went to hell because to me he was kind of soft on the last 2 goals. I don't think he did enough. I think he could have came out sooner in the last goal on the second goal, and then on the last goal, he just saw the ball just kind of pass by, and
Mhm.
to me, that just shows me that that's a team that's not wired in. There's something missing. They lack intensity. They lack pressing. There's not an innovative player. There nobody seems to be the difference maker besides an Ali, you know.
Mhm.
And there's only so much he can do. After an Ali came, you guys are not gonna let me lie. After he got subbed in, he was just trying to get something done. But he was just playing a different game.
Yeah.
And sadly, when you start losing concentration the way Dorsey did, and he got beat, and when you start losing concentration the way Andrade got beat, that just tells me that there's something else in the team. Do the players not believe in the coach anymore? Is the system that we have not working? I'm not sure, but I do know that is a mixture of not having good players, not having a good analytic team. Why? Because we bet on these guys, and how many of the last 6, 7 players that we brought have actually made a positive impact? I could
Yeah.
I could tell you one, and that's McGlynn. You know, um, I would say
That's the one
Gilligan,
player we're
but they
missing.
didn't. Yeah, and I would say Gilligan, bro. You guys will not let me lie either. Gilligan, I felt safer with him on the goal. He was.
So let me ask you this. You mentioned obviously Bond got injured in that little
Yeah,
that
when he
little
fell, when he fell, he
altercation.
landed
Yeah,
on
when he
his on
when he thrown
his
his
on
hand,
his arm.
and then obviously like a couple of minutes later, the first goal was scored, and then a couple of minutes after that, the second goal was scored. Right. Um, do you think the last couple of games have been more of a failure on the defense or more on the failure of the goalkeeping?
But, I would say,
Defense.
I would
Defense.
say
But
defense
defense,
a
okay.
lot
My
because
my, my, my my reason for asking,
yeah,
and I didn't want to ask this question until later on, but I'll ask you right now since we're on the defense versus goalkeeping topic. Because obviously we've had numerous amount of goalkeepers play for us this season because of obvious injuries and things of that nature, right? We've also had numerous amount of defensive back fours because of all the injuries, the new acquisitions, the Mikael being sold, things of that nature. So we've had a lot of transition and a lot of moving parts in that back end for us, right? And for me, it comes to a point where like, well, okay, well, look, I understand that you can have the greatest goalkeeper in the world, but if the defense in front of him is shit, it's gonna make the goalkeeper look like shit, right?
right.
Shout out to Jared. Shout out to Kobe. What's going on, guys? The activeness on the chat. All those guys. Shout out to all you guys. So with that being said, obviously Bond, he's been getting scored on. 3 goals against last night. Three goals against basically the worst team in the league in Montreal. What was it? 3 goals against Sporting Kansas City
Minnesota,
as well.
Jesus.
At some point, at me as a head coach, do I start saying, you know what? Maybe I need to switch my goalkeeper. I mean, obviously I'm making different changes with Andrade coming in, Escobar, Dorsey with Shevchenko finally coming back and getting some minutes, Ortiz, trying to get him acclimated to taking up that spot. Bartlow whenever he can get a chance when obviously Eric is out and things of that nature. So as a head coach, Andres, I'll pose this question to you first. Um, where do I go to look as far as making the first move to hoping and trying to figure out why my defense is crumbling so much?
It's more so chemistry more than anything, and it's been pretty evident this season. Of course, we got rid of Mikael. You could say it to an extent at the last minute, days before the season started, and I felt like that definitely threw a wrench on the structure of the back line because Mikael was extremely important, and we could see why we miss him so much right now. And of course, when you make that kind of move and when you try to create that center back pairing in the back, like just to be as consistent as we were for the past couple of years, it's pretty difficult. But at the same time, since you sold Mikhail like that early, I will figure that okay, we have a plan clearly, right? Because we lost one of our best center backs, and here we go. Svechenko comes here. He gets injured for almost half the season, and we're just rotating center backs back and forth. Combinations don't see like successful consistency, you could say, and we're now stuck in this limbo of like, okay, who fits better, who else fits. Paulo Ortiz, I was sold on him being like some sort of like good player with a lot of upswing. Unfortunately, he has been inconsistent so far, and just like giving a lot of opportunities for the opponents. And I was expecting a lot of him,
Mhm.
and man, it's just really defensively. I feel like it's the first thing that they will have to address. Of course, it's more so. It's a lot of it's so many issues because it's defense, it's the offense. You
Yeah.
want to sort something else right now, and the Champions League is about to open, so it's really difficult, honestly.
No,
Let me
and
let me ask
I
y'all
understand.
something. Let
Yeah,
me ask you a
go ahead.
question. Okay, how many games has Dwayne Holmes played?
We're talking about defense, cesspool.
No,
So
no, no. Hold on, hold
defense.
on, hold
If
on,
Eric,
hold on. No, hold on. It's going somewhere, right? How many
All
how
right,
many
go ahead.
games has Femi played? How many games has Femi played? He's been
how many?
rotated, right? What, three, 4 games? Five? My point is, we sold Mikael, right? Why are we bringing in more? Um, I want to be respect. Why are we bringing in more maybes? You know, why? Why not bring a solid defender? Why not bring an established defender? You know, if I don't get that, right? My point being, I feel like we wasted the money that we had. You know, I felt like we wasted our transfers and players that had just not been impactful, and in the area we really need them, which I would agree, the defense. Even though to me the attacking has been more underwhelming, because we could get into a slugfest with a team, and if we outscore them, we've done that. You know, we've done that before, but that we haven't really brought an impactful defender besides Eric. You know,
Yeah.
we haven't brought an impactful goalkeeper besides Clark. Clark was iconic here. As much as I disliked the kind of person he was, to 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 a degree, like he was a very good goalkeeper. And Jimmy Moore to me doesn't inspire me any trust.
Clark would be a
Bond,
sitting duck on this team right now.
huh?
Clark would be a
Um.
sitting duck on this
Yeah,
team right
no,
now.
for sure he would. For sure
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
would. But we would understand that we
So
wouldn't even question
goalkeeper
his
isn't an
quality.
issue right here. Goalkeeper's not an issue with this team. Defense is an issue with this team, and the way they fall asleep and
Yeah,
just make the stupid mental mistakes. Granted,
I would agree.
Eric's been hurt and not consistent all season because of his injury. It'd be nice. He's the one that's going to start right there, and you like to have him in there. The other ones you haven't figured it out yet. Ortiz is too aggressive and dangerous, commits fouls. Femi makes mental mistakes that is back playing when you're with Dose. Andrade has been looking like he's going to be the left wing to back up Escobar, and he
Hmm.
goes forward and scores more. So they don't want to use him as a center back. So now you're back to you.
Hmm.
You don't have no options. Bartlow is kind of gone to the wayside. You don't put him in there anymore. So it's nice that Eric's finally back, but no consistency. But with Seth, they're looking at maybes and they're looking at loans. They're looking to fill it. instead of going to find a more solid one, and you have to pay a little more money.
Yeah.
Salaries just came out. We're third from the lowest salary, so we may not have that many roster spots available to us right now, but we haven't been spending the money on the salaries that are available to them. So there's options there, but the defense is just killing us right now with the mental mistakes. And I hate backing up Ben, but he even said yesterday in the press conference that once we give up that first goal, the other ones just come because we're just mentally out of it, and we don't give up, but we keep fighting, but or yeah, they just give up.
But where's that leader grabbing the guy saying, "Hey guys,
Yeah.
let's go, let's go. We gotta
There is
go."
no leader. There is no
Wanted
Exactly.
leader.
to bring that point up. Okay.
There
But
hasn't
let me
been a leader all
hold on,
season,
hold on,
not
hold
from
on,
the
guys.
coaching
So
staff, not from
so
the
let me
players.
ask y'all a question. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why are we slamming the defense so bad when there's a lot of responsibility from Mikael too? Not, not Mikael, Arthur. You know? Why
No, well,
have we not
he's
touched
part of
on
the defense. He's
Arthur?
part of the defense,
Not
right?
why have we not touched on the fact that Arthur has been so underwhelming this year compared to last year? Last year
I think
he was the master in the bag. He was the anchor there. We didn't even
so.
miss Herrera when he wasn't
So,
there.
so my thing with this is my conspiracy with Arthur. I think Arthur, obviously, he's one of the best sixes in the league and stuff like that. There's no denying that. He's shown that. I think that we're asking Arthur, as far as being our captain, to do what he's not comfortable with doing. Right? He's not that yeller. He's not that rah guy like Hector Herrera was. He's not that guy who's going to get in somebody's face like Shevchenko is. And then obviously you got to give him benefit of doubt with the fact that obviously the injury to the Shevchenko was one of those things where it's kind of like, man, just another thing. Now, I was gonna ask OSG this question before we ran onto the thing, and obviously Andres mentioned it in his comments right now, the whole Mikael thing. But we're 20 games in already, right? When are we gonna stop
Mhm.
making the Mikael transaction the reason why this defense has been so poor? I mean, like, look, we're 20 games in already, almost. I mean, obviously, Femi, he makes his mental mistakes, but he is a true a rookie, right?
He's super hard. He's super stuff. He's super tough.
He's super green, you know. Ortiz, obviously, he's too aggressive, like OSG mentioned. But you like the aggression because obviously, you need to kind of
Intensity.
you need to showcase that the fact that that you're not scared to go in there and take a player down. But I mean, obviously, you got to be smart about it either. There is no local leaders, Kobe. Um, obviously Escobar, Dorsey are there, but I think one of the things with Dorsey is that he has a player in front of him, Linger, who doesn't allow him to do what he used to do. And I think he has to sit back more and play more defense. And I think that's where he needs to focus a little bit more. I think Dorsey, obviously, he loves moving up front and doing the crosses. And we love when he does that. And we love when he's been involved with the offense. But I think with the acquisition of Linger, it's kind of cut off that aspect of his game. And I think he needs to stay focused more on the defensive side, right, of the ball, which is one of those things where that might be the weakest part of his game, to be, in my opinion, to be honest, right? Because I honestly think, with Andrade coming in the way he's came in, being a really bright light in a very dark place right now that we're in with the club, you can possibly have him on the left and then move Escobar back on his real side, which is the right, and maybe play Dorsey some midfield, whatever, or some type of wing back type of thing where maybe you're playing three back or five back or whatever, depending on however. But the thing is, tactically, the coaching staff doesn't want to change anything. You know,
We
I
we
think
play the
this is
same
one of
thing
the
for 3 years.
I think this is one of the issues that we have to look at as far as not just the players that we have involved, but I mean just tactically. I mean, if it's not working for you, if you don't have the players to play your style of football, then you need to change the style of football to adapt to the players that you have currently. Because you're not just, I mean, especially with this club, acquisitions just don't happen like that. It takes some time. They go and they scout and scout and scout and scout, and then they go and negotiate, and then we get beaten by somebody else for that player, and then we go to our plan B and we get beaten out for that player, and then we go to our plan C and we get beaten out for that player. So I mean, it's one of those things where unfortunately this club, I mean, obviously we've had a lot of incoming players, right? But I mean, but nothing of the quality where we thought were like, oh man, they're going to cause an impact. Like realistically, the biggest impact has been Andrade, and he started out with Dos, and we thought, and if it wasn't for an injury to
McLean.
to Eric, we would have never noticed the fact that this kid, was shining. You know,
Hmm.
um, our offensive players, our midfielders have not, they've had little moments here and there, but I mean, but like I said, Luke has been with the club now for what, 7, 8 games, and still 2 goals. You know, uh, Mahomes, obviously Holmes is playing more of a backup role. But I mean, Holmes is one of those players that I thought during McGlynn's time in the USA men's national team that he would have grabbed the bull by the horns and tried to make that position his own. But he's still getting placed on the bench and still getting picked, and Ladero still getting picked ahead of him. You know, um, so I mean that's a cause for concern because if Ben Olsen is picking a 37, 38-year old midfielder who's 1 foot in and 1 foot out over you, then that's cause for concern from my standpoint as well. That I should be starting as a win back every game, public enemy. I mean, I agree, but I mean, but Olsen's formations doesn't have win backs. You know,
A lot of times,
Escobar can play center back as well too, and then Andretti on the
yeah,
left, Dorsey on the right,
yeah.
and Eric in the middle. You could do that too, but like you said, Ben doesn't make. He's stubborn. He doesn't make changes. He doesn't play with it. He does rotate his roster, but he doesn't change his style. Doesn't change his tactics. Everybody's got
Well,
to play
well,
his
well.
stupid
The
way, and
furthest, the
it,
furthest we'll go is have two CDMs. Hey, we've had two CDMs before,
yeah, but he
you
pushes
know.
range up higher, so whoop de doo rah rah. But yeah, so
I
we
mean,
still
look,
got
I
a
mean,
lot to argue about in this show.
we're, we're not the most offensively talented team, and then we're
No.
pushing more players to help us on the defense. It's not really helping us in the standpoint. But I mean, it's a tough situation. Look, and I'm not trying to put the whole blame on the defense and the goalkeeping, right? Because I think if the
Mm-mm.
Dynamo were more offensively skilled and were able to put the ball more often in the back of the net, it would help the defense out as much, and all that stuff. Give me a sec, says Bossy, and all that good stuff. I mean, it's just a shame. I think there's blame to go all around, and obviously when stuff like this happens, and when you have a club that's kind of on the verge of falling off and really not being a playoff contending club or fighting for a playoff spot, you have to start looking for someone to blame, right? And unfortunately, and for the most part, it starts with the head coach and the manager and the coaching staff, because at the end of the day, it's your job and duty to take the players that are given to you and to make the most of them. Obviously, front office has to help and bring you quality players, but I mean, but they're entrusting you to build up that player and put them in the position to succeed and to be able to accommodate that player to bring out the best of that player. And if you can't do that because you're unwilling to change your formation or your type of football that you play, I mean, it really makes it tough to use the level and talents and skills available of that player and help you grow this club. Cesspool, you wanted to add something?
Well, yeah, no, I kind of wanted to add to what you were saying. I was going to touch on the tactics side, but you made a good segue to it.
Briefly,
And
said Paul. Briefly, we're 42 minutes in.
Yeah.
we got an hour, buddy.
Yeah,
So,
we got a
like
lot
briefly,
to talk about.
Yeah.
so real quick, right? If we analyze the last three games, not only did I feel like the in the stats itself, we dominated the other teams. We had the ball more, we shot more, but we just didn't know what to do with the ball. And I think that comes more to like you said, the manager. I don't think the manager's giving the players the best tools. A lot of times, I think the manager will put players that would, instead of helping each other, are kind of getting in each other's way. You know. Um, and from that standpoint, like you said, it doesn't compute to me how you stick with one set of players. Then to me, that tells me that the coach believes that between the starting 11 and maybe two or three more there and the rest of the team, there's a huge gap. And that is a cause for concern. You know,
Yep.
he even did it last year with Gaines. You know, we would scream for him to put in Gaines, like he wouldn't put him in. Now this year is Dwayne. Now it's becoming Femi. Now it's Bartlow, and Bartlow wasn't so bad, but he had his moments. You know, but he was a solid defender. He's another guy we can bring in. I haven't seen him. And I think it comes down to, like you said, tactics. We don't have the best combination of players up there. I think now in his affliction to rotate players and stuff like that. He has an entrusted group of players, and he looks like the rest of them knows this because we only see the same 16 or 17 players come in,
Yeah.
or maybe less.
So
And that's
Yeah.
kind of all I wanted to add.
yeah, Andres, did you want to add something before?
Yeah, I mean, just to back up successful in the way we look at the roster and the way the production's going. Felipe Andrade is tied for second in the goal scoring tally, and I mean it's just like one goal behind Ponce. So it's like what is this?
Why not give Gabe a chance,
Is
or
Ponce
why not?
our designated player or is Felipe Andrade our designated player? But
No, I mean, look,
yeah.
don't get me wrong. I love having a goal scoring defender, someone who knows how to get the ball inside the net from set pieces and stuff like that. Because those the defenders are usually our tallest players, right? And things of that nature. So I love the fact that that kid is involved and he's always hustling. He's always under. So to be honest, I think he's one of those guys that we're gonna keep here. Pretty, he won't just be a one and done or whatever with us, but hopefully we'll see what happens. But with that being said, I'm gonna move on to this next topic because I posted this question right after the Dynamo game, and obviously the whole commotion of has been whether or not Ben is the right guy. Look, when there's not gonna be any Ben Olsen hate on this show. Ben Olsen helped us get from 6 to 10 feet below the ground to ground level, and as well as back up to being a respectable club. Right now,
But
whether he's that manager to take us to the next level, obviously that's yet to be seen. And right now, it's not looking that well on his
Very bright,
standpoint.
yeah.
Right. So my question to y'all guys, and we won't spend too much time on this topic because obviously we're kind of cutting it, close to the hour bit, whatever. But are you team Ben in or Ben out? Do you want to give him the rest of the season to see if he can turn it around, or do you want to make a change now? Obviously you're about to have the transfer window open up. Do you want to bring in someone that who can who can possibly put a spark of fire under these guys' asses and show them, hey, if we're letting if we're letting this guy go, who helped us not only capture a USA a US Open Cup and make good runs in the playoffs, nobody's safe here, right? I'll start with you, Andres. Are you been in or been out? And
I'm
give
on
me
the
a short why
fence.
and why. Huh?
I'm on the fence only because look, you just set up correctly. He put us in a great position to develop over time,
Mm-hmm.
and this is definitely the toughest part of his entire tenure for the past few years. And it comes down to him understanding the players and trying to do what's best. But at the same time, we see what we saw against Minnesota in the past two games before that, and the losses that we had to endure. Granted, a lot of those players that he relied on were left the club, either with some anticipation in the offseason or not. And it's pretty tricky to deal with that. But at the same time, it's like we have all these pieces. We already talked about like how we're just like relying on specific pieces every single day or every single week. And we just need to see something new. And if Ben Olsen is not with that or just like evolve past that, we're just gonna be dead on the water, and it's gonna be a time for change at some point.
Do you think right now is the right time to possibly start looking for that next person? Maybe, I mean, do you think you bring somebody externally or somebody internally?
I would say externally, there's a couple options out there, and people in the chat were always saying Vicente Sanchez. So it's you
Hey,
can
hey,
start
hey.
you can start
This
there.
is the popular name out
Hey,
there.
I sent them a message, man. I haven't heard back from his agent yet. We'll see. We'll
Harbin,
see
what's
if he
going
has.
on, baby? Thank you for inviting us into your bed. OSG, I'll ask you the same question, but are you been in or been out?
so That one's easy. And as Herman pops in tonight, he didn't want to
I gotta
he didn't
take a
want to
puff for that
specifically
one.
come in for this specific topic as well. So we'll refer to him in a little bit. But I am been out. I'm I'm over it. I'm tired of the way he acts with media, with his team, with his players. He's not a leader. He doesn't provide like leadership. Great. He did 2 good seasons. We knew what we were getting. As Rashawn has put in the chat too, to remember to quote Sean Ringrose back from Generation Orange, he is bad Benny. So he wasn't a good coach. But his tenure in DC wasn't that great either. He did win one Open Cup. He went to 6 playoffs in 9 seasons. The other 2 seasons were like half season. We don't count those. So, but he didn't win no cup. He didn't take them to anything. He didn't. So right now he is run out of resources. He has got the players that he asked for. Pat went and got these players that he asked for. The type of player. I'm sure Pat said, "Hey, look at this guy," and he's like, "Let's do this one." And they agreed, and they all did this one. The tactics have stalled. He won't change a damn thing when he knows he has to change a lot just to make because you can make this team better than what they're playing. They're playing like they want to be the last place team and win the wooden spoon on purpose. They're not playing with no grit. They look like a wreck team out there sometimes, and Ben is just he's done. I think he's run out of resources. He
So
does not look like he wants to be there, and it shows. And his vibe is just horrible.
so
I am been out.
let me play a little bit of devil's advocate with you, OSG. What about the person who says, "Hey, well, obviously, yeah, he gave us 2 great seasons, brought us a U.S. Open Cup, a Western Conference Finals appearance, and stuff like that. Does he deserve a little bit of grace and a little bit of an opportunity to turn this around?"
No.
If
Oh,
we have the opportunity to go get a Vicente Sanchez or somebody like that of that caliber, bye Ben, you got to go.
okay.
If you're holding face till the end of the season, there's no point in it. Bye Ben, you got to go. If you're the no, if I'm the general manager and I'm just like, hey, all right, I'm going to give him till the end of the season to turn this around, and then he's out. I'm already saying he's out right there. Basically, go. But it, and I know he's struggling with injuries, and these players are coming back, and they're coming back slow. You're playing a nollie for 20 minutes a game, and you're restricted on that, and it's been 5 games already or whatever it is, and and then it's nuts. But like I said, Ben's run out of resources. He won't change things. He's not open minded. He won't do other things. I can
Okay.
see the chat popping off too, but I can't read it right now. But I have
Gotcha.
been out for
So,
sure, and I know more issues across the board with Pat Onstad and some of the decisions he's made, and maybe the quality of the players. But I think it goes coaching staff, front office, and then the quality of the players in my
gotcha.
order.
I like what Corey said in the chat. Shout out Corey. He says he deserves grace if he was able to adapt and shift tactically, which I totally agree with, and I think is
Right?
what OSG is trying to say, but he just kind of went a long way in saying it.
Yeah.
Cesspool, are you been in or been out?
I'm gonna keep it quick and short. Uh, I have a reporter. I work with Viva Houston, and I have a reporter that goes and is always getting into the press conferences with them. And every time, not just him asking him a question, every time somebody questions why, he would always turn it around on the reporter and look annoyed instead of owning
Yeah,
up, taking responsibility. He'll look at you like you're dumb and you don't know soccer. I get it. You're sitting there. I mean, because you're sitting there, we're expecting a lot. And like OSG said, he hasn't been able to adapt, and that's the reason why he should be gone. I'm pretty sure he's shown the door to players that weren't able to adapt to his system. So why shouldn't we show him the door? We're desperately sinking, brother, because it's either him or the playoffs at this point. Because even what's the point of let's say we bring a Giroud for what? Let's say we bring let's say fucking Marco Rose or whatever his name is wants to come here. Let's say Pogba wants to come here. What difference is that going to make? You know, None. Okay, I think we have good players. We're just not giving them the right tools.
love it. Short and simple. Herman, what's going on, buddy?
It's all good. This is a good topic. I love that you guys started the rumor of Vicente Sanchez, and it makes sense because he has some history with the Dynamo. good stuff
And
in
Rio
Cruz
Grande
Azul.
too. Rio
He
Grande.
loves he loves Houston.
Yeah, he loves
But
Houston.
hold on.
Yeah.
Before we get onto the whole Vicente Sanchez training and all that stuff, whatever. Let's just keep it to the bin in, bin out.
Yeah,
Because
the answer to
I
your
do.
question is I'm gonna answer with another question for y'all. Do we have enough talent to compete? If the answer
Uh,
is yes, then fire Ben. But
yeah,
if you don't
I think
trust the
so.
talent you have, you can't
yeah,
fire Ben.
absolutely,
So that's the
I
absolutely.
think
question we gotta ask
to be
ourselves
me
first.
personally, I
Uh-huh.
think the talent is there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Personally, from my standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I think the fact is that you're playing players out of position, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't, and you're not allowing them to showcase their skills and their personality on the pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And and you bring in these players like, say for example, like a Linger who he's playing a winger position, but he's not a
He's a
winger.
striker. He's a
he's
striker.
a
Yeah,
yeah.
he's not a winger.
He's a
You
cam, even a cam, bro.
you ought to play you ought to make a formation where he's a second striker or like a cam, somebody who distributes and is able to make his own plays. But him on the right wing doesn't make any sense to me. But with that being said, I mean, I think there's enough talent on this team. But I mean, but I do want your answer on the bin in and bin out.
Yeah, I'm a patient guy. And OSG hit it on the dot. If I was Ben, I would give him to the end of the season and then make the decision then. But OSG is onto something that if you think that way, in your mind you're already thinking Ben out. But this is where we're gonna see what kind of club we are. Are we going to accept these results, or are we going to make changes when we need them? Like this is a
Drastic.
pivotal point. This is a pivotal point, in my opinion, in the Dynamo. Like, in Ted Siegel's ownership, are we going to accept this, or is this going to change for the better?
Yeah, for sure.
Daniel, the summer transfer window opens July 1st, so they're coming.
Yeah, I forgot who said it, but it says on the chat that that Ben is working with what he has. Pat's still guys signing these guys. We have no talent, which, like I said, I don't agree with that full heartedly. I think there's players that
Mm-mm.
maybe came in and aren't contributing the way we thought they were going to contribute. Yes, but are they being played the way they need to be played? That's another question to be asked, right? Because, like I said, like I mentioned, somebody brought out Dwayne Holmes, right? Holmes was brought in because we thought that he was going to be this player who was going to be electric, was going to be somebody who can come in during the time when McGlynn was in the U.S.
Explosive.
national team and take over that spot. But he's being put back, and Nicholas Lodero, who is a player who has 1 foot in and 1 foot out, is still being chosen ahead of him. So that's a cause for concern for myself as a fan. Like, why is a player who has made it known that, hey, once the transfer window opens, I want to go back to my home country, to my childhood club, still getting picked over somebody who's going to be with us for the rest of the season, bearing some kind of weird transfer or whatever. But like, that's a cause for concern for me. So from my standpoint, from where I'm at, I'm I have to kind of agree a little bit with everybody in the chat here, where I feel like, man, I need results. If we're truly going to be the ambitious club that we supposedly desire to be, then we need to make moves that align with that ambition, and not. And look, I'm the only reason I even mentioned Vicente Sanchez in the post or whatever, and then it just started kind of a little snowball that kind of avalanche into something bigger.
That was
It's
me.
because obviously the great job that he did with Cruz Azul, winning the CONCACAF Champions League, whatever, and then obviously Cruz Azul not picking him up, and obviously because he had a great season with the Dynamo that really helped develop players like Albert Elise, Kyoto, and players like that at that time, Manotas, and all that time during that time period that he had here. So he was basically a coach for us on the field when we were trying to grow
Hmm.
a young club back then. So obviously somebody who's been through the trial and tribulations would be somebody new. Now, I want to ask this real quick. I know we got a couple times before we hit the hour mark. If Vicente Sanchez aside, if they said, "Hey, we're gonna give Kenny Bundy," or who's the guy who came from Phoenix Rising, our assistant coach,
Uh,
Buena?
Alex Gonzalez.
Yeah. Well, if the options of one of those two guys, Ben is out, one of these two guys is going to take his place. Are you still Ben in and out?
Yeah,
Out,
absolutely.
out, out.
Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah,
Juan
absolutely.
just
Guerrero,
like I said,
yeah,
I mean,
give it to
it's
him,
just a
and do
it's
not
the
give it to
driver at
Wolf.
this
Right?
point. It's
Okay,
the
okay.
driver
No,
at
no, no.
this
I
point.
just, I just want to make sure because sometimes we get enamored and we have this fantasization of oh Vicente Sanchez or Piojo Herrera or Tata Martino or whatever is out there,
No,
you
yeah.
know, and things of that nature, and we start fantasizing and daydreaming of oh man, if we had this coach, whatever this and that. But realistically, if we're gonna fire a coach, 75% of the time is gonna be an internal hire where somebody gets moved up. Most of
For
the
the
time.
time being, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not
No,
always
I mean,
permanent.
it's for the time being, whatever. But you're gonna pick somebody who is familiar with the club and familiar with the players, and might have a different view tactically than what's going on. So I'm not. So
Right.
for the group in chat and for everybody in Twitter who saw my post and suggested Vicente Sanchez, it might end up
Me.
being Kenny Bundy or Juan Guerra. I forget the guy's name, who's on the coaching staff right now. So that's more likely the possibility than a Vicente Sanchez or a Tata Martino or whoever. Cesspool, what's up, man?
Hey, but let's not pretend that Kenny wasn't doing a good job with Dynamo too. Okay,
No, no,
let's
no, no,
not
no, no,
pretend
no.
like he doesn't know the team. And
No,
I'm
we
pretty
give him
sure
his
he would
props.
bring up a player from Dynamo two
But
to or
yo,
two of
but
them
Look,
to
look.
help out.
but you
The
also have to
range
remember.
goes to Juan Guerrero if we go internally. He's next in line. Juan
Yeah,
Guerrero
Yeah,
is next in line over
yeah,
Kenny Bundy and over Josh Wolf. So,
absolutely. Yeah,
and we'll
yeah.
go
but
to Juan no
also,
matter what
but
to even.
also,
And
let's not
and
act
look,
like
Cesspool,
let's not
look,
act like
I don't
Vicente
mean to.
Sanchez is a wild dream because
Yeah,
the only reason we're throwing his name in the hat is because it's the first team he had. Look at what he did. He got thrown out. He's shown the door in an ugly manner. So he's been done wrong. We've been done wrong. He has dynamo history. And I'm pretty sure the administration has thought about him. And I
but
wouldn't be surprised if they're looking for him.
look, this is the one thing I have about promoting youth coaches, right? The same thing that I had an issue with when we had Tab Ramos. There's a difference coaching kids who wanting to make it into soccer as opposed to coaching professionals who've already made a
Already
career in
established.
soccer. So it's a huge difference because kids are willing to run through a brick wall for you, and professionals, if you're not doing what you need to do to make them look good and put them in a position to succeed, they're only going to listen to you so much, until they
They'll
can
turn on you.
until that respect ends, and that's just point period. But with that being said, I gotta ask the question that I always ask at the end of the show. I know it sometimes has been it's been changing, and unfortunately, we're going back to the question that I originally posted or asked when I first started hosting Noodle Time, and unfortunately, because during that time period, the Dynamo were bottom two in the Western Conference, but it looks like we're heading back to that direction. So I'm gonna ask you guys: do you think the Dynamo are one of the worst teams in the league at this moment? Andres, I'm going to ask you. Go ahead. Answer the question, my guy.
No, but we're getting close at this rate. Honestly, if we just like keep playing the way we are, just stay stale over the course of what's remaining of like the next few games, really, we could just go there without us knowing or noticing. And it's very disappointing because they were in pretty good shape initially, and well, after a bad start to the year, and look at us now. It kind of feels like we haven't progressed as much, and we
Mm-hmm.
could be moving there.
OSG.
Man, it's kind of hard to defend it and say, yes, we are one of the worst. The way you asked the question, so yes, we are one of the worst teams in the MLS right now. That's the way I feel. How can we argue? We just lost to the worst team, Montreal, just 2 weeks ago. So at our own house. So um, yeah, I mean, it feels like we're one of the worst teams, and it's hard to defend it. Three straight 3-1 losses, and if Sergio, the Surge president, they jinx us, and we get a fourth 3-1 loss in a row and set history probably, and we're going to blame him for it.
Cesspool, our invited guest. What do you think? This will be the first time you answer this question. What do you think? Are we one of the worst clubs in MLS currently?
We are not one of the worst clubs in the league. We are playing like the worst club in the league. Um, because like I said, on paper, we're doing what we need to do. We get the shots, we get the chances. The thing is, they're not quality chances. So like I said, we're just playing bad. I don't think we're the worst. I think Vancouver does have worse players than we do, and I think Minnesota too.
Montreal.
But I mean, yeah, Montreal. I'm sorry, Montreal, Minnesota, Kansas City. I think they have worse teams than we do, and I just think we were outplayed.
Yeah.
They're not better than us. We just didn't play better than them. We're
I
just
like
playing
that. I
bad.
like that. I like that answer, man. We're not the worst, but we're playing like the worst. I like that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Herman,
Yeah, my answer is a combination of Andres and Cesspool. I just wanted to share another observation about Ben and peace out. During Ezequiel Ponce's press conference, when we signed him, we asked Ben, what stood out? What do you like about Ezequiel Ponce? And the first thing out of his mouth was the way he presses. The way he presses was the first thing out of Ben Olsen's mouth. That right there shows you the mentality. This is a $8 million striker, and we're talking about pressing.
Yeah.
That's the mentality.
we talking about
That's
practice.
yeah. We're talking about practice, pressing. That's the mind shift, right?
Yeah.
That's the red flag to me.
See, I like what Herman brought to the table there, and I'm not gonna get into this because we can go another hour with what he just said. I know a lot of people on here give me flack for being a quote unquote Ponce lover. I believe Ponce has the skills and capabilities to be a 20 goal scorer, a 20 goal scorer in the season for the Dynamo. I believe that with Sebastian Ferreira. The unfortunate thing about this situation is the coach that we brought in and Brent Olsen has a certain mentality. Look, he it's control the ball, control the ball, control the ball, control the ball, find the opening spot, right? 60% possession doesn't mean shit to me when we only get 2 shots on goal per game. That doesn't mean anything to me. So with that being said, realistically, that's one of the reasons why I would be been out because I think that we're losing the fact that hey, we have 2 strikers who are capable and we're not getting anywhere near the capabilities that they're able to do. They're not able to do anything that they're able to do because they're not playing in a scheme that provides them opportunities to do what they need to do. But with that being said, guys, like I said, man, dude, I love the chat. Guys, Cesspool, thank you for coming in. Herman, thank you for coming in as well. OSG, Andres, as always, guys, the chat was busy, it was flowing. Thank you, Giuseppe, Kobe, Public Enemy, whoever I missed out there, guys. Thank you for the continual support and all that good stuff. I love to see it. I love all the good stuff, man, guys. I want to get another giveaway going pretty soon because I love the fact that that we're engaged and we have this passion for this small team in Houston, for Forever Orange and all that good stuff. But with that being said, Andres, please let the people know where they can find us and where they can reach out to us if it need to be.
Of course, at Dynamic Foxtrot on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We also have a separate handle on X called Noodle Tiempo, where you guys keep you covered no matter what, highs and lows, kind of like where we're at right now, and we're gonna keep it that way forever. Orange, and whatever you're watching, first of all, a big thanks to the chat that has been interacting a lot in this episode. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion. You already highlighted a lot of people. Giuseppe, Corey, Public Enemy, Fire at Will. We also have Rushan in the chat.
Hey,
And
Rushan.
yes. And we also did have Omar towards the beginning, a Bayless initially, and everybody else had tuned in over the course of the episode. We
Thank
appreciate
you,
you
guys.
as always. And we do have the live episodes of Neural Time on YouTube, usually every Thursday. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you are subscribed, liking our episodes. It helps the algorithm a lot. And of course, Goals TV, another platform you can watch us and other soccer content creators like us. That's Goals spelled with a Z.tv. And our weekly newsletters, OSG kind of just launches its own with our platform, Dash Dispatch alongside Fox in the Box. We try to have it out as early during the week if you guys are interested. And we do have all the links in the profile for X if you want to check those out. So a lot of content out there, but as always, we do appreciate the support you guys give us, and we'll keep going.
Hey,
No,
and
for
I'll be
sure, guys.
doing the Foxtrot game day this weekend as I'll be attending the game against St. Louis. I'll be attending the Surge tailgate with the Texian Army. That'll be right there in the Surge lot next to the stadium. So come check us out before the game. Like I said, it'll be a Foxtrot game day as well. So we'll be asking fans a lot of questions during the game, and we'll see what we can get after the game in the mixed zone. I know Herman will be there as well, so we're gonna see what we can do and get there for you. And I believe Juan will be there. Cesspool will be there. So let's
Nah,
see
not
if
me.
we can
I
make.
sent some guy. I sent some guy
Oh,
over there because, yeah, they don't let me go back there with the mask, so I had to freaking get a guy from Home Depot and send him back there.
oh yeah. I think that's that Cesar guy, right? That gets back
Yes.
there and gets into the
He,
mixed zone. But so yeah,
bro,
y'all
he
check
told me
that
his
out.
name was Miguel.
Miguel, my bad. So Miguel in the mix zone, but check us all there. You'll see Cesspool in the supporter section, being rowdy with new kid most likely. But yeah, like I said, that's what's up. So let's see if we can get a dub this weekend and stop this friggin' torture.
No, for sure, guys. Like I said, thank you again. And obviously, like Corey said in the chat, we all needed this therapy. We all needed to vent out a little bit of our frustrations. And obviously, like I said, thank you for the continued support. And hopefully, this Sunday at home, we can reverse our fortunes and possibly bring a W back to the H. But with that being said, guys, whether we're up or down, we're always holding it down with H Town. So hold it down for Houston Dynamo, baby. Let's go.
Hold it down.
Always.
Good.